Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us for a hopefully brief but special school committee meeting of Monday, August 19th. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. The primary purpose of this meeting is to discuss a contract related to installation of security cameras. Two quick notes before we get started. One, I know we referenced this at our last meeting last Monday, but unfortunately the contract came in the day after, which is why it was not included on our agenda last week. So thank you all for your flexibility to be here, and thank you, Mr. Storrs, for allowing us to impede a little bit on the Policy and Personnel Subcommittee. I will remind the committee, any details related to school security have to be discussed in executive session. So for tonight's purposes, we can ask any general questions of the administration and provide any general comments. But I want to give the opportunity now for anyone, if anyone would like to go into executive session to discuss the details beyond what's been provided already by the administration. I'm willing to entertain that motion now. All right, seeing none. So before we get into discussion and entertain a motion, I'll turn it over to Mr. Furtado.
Sure. Thank you. So we had a bid opening on the 27th, and I do want to go over a couple of things very quickly. We had 8 bidders. We were thrilled by that. That was a great turnout. They sort of bifurcated into a group at $1 million plus, and then another group below $1 million, literally 4 and 4. So we feel extremely confident about the pricing we received. The fellow who represents the firm that won the bid is local, lives in Attleboro. Students in the schools is very enthusiastic about doing this work. We are really pressed for time. The funding is coming from city ARPA funds, which are the equivalent of our ESSER funds, which are COVID-related grants. And they have to be fully expended, invoiced, done by December 31st. So this firm has to come in, outfit our 8 other schools with over 300 cameras, which have their own switches, power supplies, etc., before the end of the calendar year, and have it fully invoiced and paid for. So it's a pretty aggressive schedule. The low bidder was able to do the work, which is installation and removal of existing cabling, which is a state requirement, for 7 buildings with the amount of funds allocated to us, with about $6,000 to spare. And then the remaining funds, which were requested of the municipal council, or will be requested of the municipal council tomorrow. Once they come in, we'll do the 8th building.
Any questions from the committee to start, Mr. I'm sorry. First, I'll entertain a motion to recognize Settronics as the low bidder on the request for bids on the installation of school security cameras and approve the contract for $682,074.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Storrs, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a quick question. Let me say it as vaguely as I can. We have current coverage, and now these are going to be installed. How long does it take to do a full building's installation?
There's all kinds of variables there that it'll be different for a place like Studley, which has pretty extensive camera coverage, versus Hill Roberts, which has very little camera coverage.
Okay.
So, and then they have proposed 2 crews, so they'll be doing 2 buildings simultaneously, and we'll be working second shift, not during the school day. So hopefully, pretty quick. you know, we certainly don't want to get into any kind of timeline issues.
And just for clarification, when you use the example of Studley having extensive coverage versus Hill Roberts, that's more related to the building footprint, because Hill Roberts
It's
is,
building infrastructure, so Hill Roberts doesn't have
Walls.
wiring because it has no walls.
right.
So that's what drives that. And you know, we had in the past, you know, extended camera coverage in many of our schools, particularly Thatcher and Studley, because of the programs that are in the schools. So all of the schools, including those two, will have even more coverage than they have existing.
And just to follow up, is the process installation while the existing system is intact, followed by the removal after fully up and running?
No. There will be some downtime, and again, I don't know, I don't think it's months. You know, I think it's, you know, a few, maybe a handful, a week or two, where one system is down, the other system isn't up yet. But again, they're going to be pretty aggressive. They're going to be starting in the next week or so, and you know, gun goes off, and they've got 3.5 months to get it done. So, you know, again, it won't be any significant downtime.
Thank you.
And then, again, for clarification, the high school obviously had a security system that's already, a security camera system that's already feeding into the police department. This is just updating to match that system that will also,
It's the same system.
it's the same, right,
So it's going to integrate right back to the high school, which is wonderful, a single dashboard throughout the district, and all of that will feed into APD.
terrific, thank you. Mr. Bennett?
I see that Coelho is not covered by this because there's no funding, but it's part of the contract. Is there, so that work won't be done on this timetable, obviously, right?
Oh, it will be.
Oh, it will?
Like I said, city budget director is going to the council tomorrow to request the funds.
missed that.
So the vendor is treating it as if it's going to go, and buying the materials, getting ready to do it.
Okay, I
We
mean,
expect an answer.
it's kind of hard to say everyone except for Coelho has a new security system.
Yeah, that would be
I'm
a
South
hard thing
Attleboro.
to say,
Yeah, that's,
and we wouldn't.
Right, fair.
So, yeah, well, you know, one way or another, we would find a way to do that.
Right, okay, thank
It's
you.
just, it wasn't part of the.
It's not part of
initial
the
funding that we.
the ESSER fund or whatever the.
yeah.
Sure it doesn't, thank you. I'm sure it doesn't have to be said, but I just want to verify. Obviously, we'll be coordinating with the police department, so they're fully aware of the downtime as well as everything else, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
Any other questions or comments?
Pretty much summed up the questions I had all together. Second shift sounds great
Yeah, we're very happy that they were
for
willing to
no
do that.
disruption to school time.
And
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And while the administration has us here, they've also brought forward a second motion, motion to send to municipal council for approval prior year invoices in the total amount of $24,721.78.
So
Right.
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I noticed 2 of the invoices were rather sizable amounts from National Grid. Maybe it's just I've been on the committee long enough to develop a strong suspicion of National Grid, but it sounds like
Strong,
there's,
healthy suspicion of that.
but is there a particular reason why they're so
Yeah,
far?
and we're still working through some of it. They did not bill us for 2 schools, Willett and Studley, and we called every 3 weeks, and they said it's coming, and unfortunately, deadlines for closing out the fiscal year, which we hit without it coming, and some of it came, and here we are. They have since the pandemic, certainly for the last 3 years, have had monumental struggles with billing us for service.
I would say you could just say they've had monumental struggles.
Yeah,
not necessarily billing for a service, but I just want to confirm I didn't see any sign of any late fees that are being added on as a
No.
result.
Yeah,
Okay,
they can't do that actually legally because it's their fault.
just wanted to make sure.
Doesn't mean they won't try.
They have had monumental struggles. Any other questions or comments?
Just a
Mr.
quick
Bennett?
one on the B&R E-rate consulting services. It doesn't, I'm just curious what those are for. Is that a specific app that we use or something? It was
Which one?
B&R E-rate consulting services. It was 8,120.
Yeah, so there's a program called E-rate, which is funded through very small charges to your bills. That's managed by an entity called USAC that provides funding for technology for public schools in Massachusetts. So we are required to file reports. We're going to be doing this work with these vendors, costing this much. And USAC then opens up a formal bidding process for others to participate in that. And then based on responses, says, listen, we'll fund this one at this rate and you get this much off of your bill for this work. So for instance, if we were gonna do Wi-Fi at a school, we would say, hey, we're using Aruba access points and, Aruba switches and blah, 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 and it's gonna cost this much money, and they come back and say, anybody wanna participate in this, and anybody can do it. And then, based on the responses, they pick somebody, and then we get, 60% off of the estimated cost of the project. We don't have the capacity to manage that entire process. So we hire a consultant who does all of that interaction with USAC, files all those reports with USAC, and, has the result of these are being funded. That consultant, I don't know why, sent the bills for last year, last week.
Okay, they probably don't like money.
Yeah, so they work on a contingency based on what our rebates are for that fiscal year.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's more than paid for itself, I'm guessing.
Oh, God, yes, yeah, it's valuable. Yeah, we could never do it.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you again.
Thank you. So let's wrap this up so that the Policy and Personnel Subcommittee can get started on their work. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Have a great night.
Thank you.